Imagine building an empire so powerful that it stretches from Detroit to Miami to Los Angeles. An empire built not just on drugs, but on influence, image, and fear. Then imagine that empire crashing, only for one of its kings to be freed by a presidential signature. This is the story of Terry Southwest T. Flenory, co-founder of the Black Mafia Family, BMF, a man who went from the streets of Detroit to federal prison and back, now walking freely into a new chapter of life. But this isn't just about one man. It's about the way crime, culture, punishment, and redemption collide in America. Terry's story represents a larger truth, that in the shadows of poverty, brilliance and destruction can walk hand in hand. Terry Flenory was born into a Detroit that was unraveling. Once known as the Motor City and a hub of black prosperity, Detroit in the 1980s was collapsing under economic pressure. Auto plants were closing, jobs were disappearing, crime was rising. In this void of opportunity, many young black men turned to the only viable business left in the neighborhoods: drug dealing. Terry and his younger brother, Demetrius Big Meech Flenory, were smart, strategic, and highly observant. What began as small-time street dealing quickly became something more sophisticated. Terry had the business mind. He understood structure, discretion, and risk. While other dealers flaunted their money, Terry kept a low profile, watching, learning, and preparing for something bigger. That something became BMF. In the early 1990s, the Flenory brothers launched what would become one of the most legendary criminal enterprises in U.S. history, the Black Mafia Family. But they didn't operate like most drug crews. They ran BMF like a Fortune 500 company. They had distribution channels, a payroll system, logistics teams, and even marketing departments embedded within the hip-hop industry. Terry was the brains behind the West Coast operation, focusing on efficiency and keeping the product moving with minimal attention. From Los Angeles, he oversaw a highly professionalized drug distribution network that was nearly impossible to trace, until it wasn't. Meanwhile, Big Meech transformed BMF's Atlanta operations into a lifestyle brand, aligning the group with rappers, clubs, and urban media. With flashy parties, celebrity affiliations, and the launch of BMF Entertainment, the crew blurred the line between criminal enterprise and entertainment powerhouse. Together, the brothers weren't just drug dealers, they were cultural architects. But empires built on illegal foundations can only stand so long. By 2003, the DEA and FBI had assembled a task force solely dedicated to bringing down BMF. The investigation took years and was fueled by wiretaps, undercover agents, and flipped insiders. Dozens of people were arrested. Properties were seized. Wiretaps exposed conversations about multi-kilo deals, hits on rivals, and laundering methods. The evidence was overwhelming. In 2005, the Flenory brothers were arrested. In 2008, they were sentenced to 30 years in federal prison for running a continuing criminal enterprise and conspiracy to distribute cocaine. For many, this marked the official end of BMF, but for those following the saga, it was just another chapter. In 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic disrupted the entire prison system. Facilities were overcrowded, health risks soared, and pressure mounted on the federal government to release inmates who pose no threat to society. Terry Southwest T. Flenory, who suffered from multiple health issues, was among those released under compassionate release. He was allowed to serve the remainder of his sentence in home confinement, monitored by an ankle bracelet, and was no longer behind bars. Critics argued that justice was being rolled back. Supporters countered that Terry had served more than 15 years and had shown signs of rehabilitation. He was back in Detroit, older, wiser, and more cautious than ever before. In December 2024, President Joe Biden issued clemency to Terry Flenory, removing his sentence completely. The clemency was part of a broader initiative targeting nonviolent drug offenders who had been released to home confinement during the pandemic. Terry celebrated his clemency with a symbolic act, the removal of his ankle monitor captured in a video posted to Instagram. With calm pride, he thanked God, his supporters, and the president. "It's been a journey," he said, "but prayer and unwavering faith beyond mere human comprehension got us to this point." It was a striking moment. Once feared by the feds, Terry was now free by the grace of the White House. The story of Terry and BMF didn't end with their arrest. It exploded in popularity, thanks to rapper and producer 50 Cent. The Starz series BMF brought the story to millions of homes. The casting of Demetrius Flenory Jr., Big Meech's real-life son, added authenticity and emotional weight to the series. The show dramatized their rise from Detroit street corners to national dominance, sparking renewed interest in BMF's influence on hip-hop fashion, slang, and urban mythology. On social media, Gen Z users posted quotes, memes, and fan theories about the show and the real-life figures behind it. For many young viewers, BMF became a modern Robin Hood tale, flawed heroes rising from nothing. But for others, it was a cautionary tale about power, ego, and consequences. What's next for Southwest T? With freedom finally restored, Terry Flenory has choices. He's been spotted at local events, mingling with Detroit rappers like T Grizzly. There are rumors of a memoir, a documentary, or a potential film adaptation that focuses on Terry's unique perspective, the quiet strategist behind the curtain. He could also use his platform to promote prison reform mentor at-risk youth, or enter the world of legal business using the BMF brand for apparel, entertainment, or publishing. What's clear is that the streets are still watching. And what about Big Meech? Terry's brother, Demetrius Big Meech Flenory, is finally free. In October 2024, he was transferred to a residential re-entry program in Miami, and right now he is finally free to roam the streets. Despite a social media beef and back and forth with 50 Cent, Meech has been focused on getting back to his friends and family. There were petitions, fan pages, and celebrities who praised his behavior in prison and his cultural impact. With the popularity of the Starz series, Meech was able to maintain a larger-than-life persona, even behind bars. With both brothers finally free, this could spark a new era of storytelling, business, or even activism. Not everyone is applauding Terry's release. Critics argue that glorifying BMF through TV shows, music, and internet praise sends a dangerous message to young people. Law enforcement officials point to the bodies left behind, the violence, and the addiction fueled by the cocaine BMF trafficked. Families devastated by drugs question whether true justice was served. On the other hand, Terry's supporters highlight his time served, his health risks, and his transformation as evidence that redemption is possible. They argue that nonviolent drug offenders deserve second chances, especially when they've demonstrated growth. The debate is ongoing, and it reflects America's evolving relationship with punishment, justice, and race. Conclusion: redemption, reality, and the road ahead. Terry Southwest T. Flenory is no longer the shadowy kingpin of the 1990s. He's a man who spent over 15 years behind bars, watched his empire fall, his family change, and the world move on. Yet somehow, through perseverance, political timing, and personal reinvention, he's earned a second chance. His journey forces us to ask tough questions. Can people truly change? Is justice only served through decades in prison? And what role does media play in turning criminals into legends? Terry's story, like the BMF saga itself, isn't about glorifying the past. It's about understanding it, learning from it, and navigating what comes next. His clemency is a symbol of a changing America, one that's beginning to value redemption as much as retribution. For now, Terry is free, but what he does with that freedom may be the most important chapter yet. Terry Southwest T. Flenory's life is a powerful story of rise, fall, and redemption. He started out in the tough neighborhoods of Detroit, where opportunities were few and danger was everywhere. Alongside his brother Big Meech, he helped build one of the biggest drug organizations in U.S. history, the Black Mafia Family, BMF. But that success came with a heavy price: arrests, long prison sentences, and broken families. Terry was known as the quiet, business-minded brother, while Big Meech was the public face. Terry ran things behind the scenes. Together, they controlled a coast-to-coast drug empire and even stepped into the hip-hop world, becoming legends on the streets and in music circles. But in 2005, it all came crashing down. The government had been watching for years, and both brothers were sent to prison for decades. Many thought we'd never hear from them again. Then the world changed. The COVID-19 pandemic opened doors for some prisoners, and Terry was released to home confinement in 2020. 4 years later, in 2024, President Joe Biden granted him clemency, officially ending his sentence. Now Terry is a free man. He has the chance to start fresh, tell his story, and maybe help others avoid the same mistakes. This isn't just a crime story. It's a story about second chances, personal growth, and how one decision can change everything. What Terry does next could be even more powerful than what he did in the past. The world is watching. And for once, Terry Southwest T. Flenory gets to write the next chapter of his life, his way. Don't forget to like and comment.